everybody, to another roundtable here with Rob Friedman, owner of Flat Ground, the Pitching Ninja, and today we have Dan Straily with us. Dan, what team do you play for right now?
Right now I play for the Busan Lotte Giants out in the KBO.
So what time is it where you are?
11 p.m., 11:08 to be exact.
So you are almost exactly on the other side of the world, because that's about 13 hours. So yeah, almost exactly. Rob, I'm completely unprepared for this interview, so please go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, you don't know that Dan is actually tearing it up in the KBO right now.
I do know that because I see Pitching Ninja stuff of him.
Okay. Well, there you go. So how are you liking playing in the KBO? What's your favorite parts, stuff that you took a little time to get used to? Give me some flavor.
Quite frankly, I'm just happy to be playing, blessed to be playing right now. When I chose to come over here, I had no clue that COVID was going to be going on, no clue that any of this stuff would be delayed with baseball back in America. But just given the way things have turned out this year, I'm just happy to be playing baseball. Coming into the KBO, I didn't really know what to expect. I had no clue. I talked to Josh Lindblom and Seth Frankoff and some other guys that come over here before me. I'm a pretty firm believer in not trying to pioneer everything, but, asking people that have gone before you questions about what to expect. And some of the best advice I got came from Josh. Just really take expectations and throw them out the window and just go be present and go play baseball. And that's what I've been doing. I came over here with really a mission in mind of just reestablishing my stuff and reestablishing myself, showing that I'm still a dominant pitcher and that, showing that basically the start of last year was a fluke. That was really the whole reason I'm over here. And so just really got over here, got right to work. We had a month delay, which is a lot better than all my friends back in the States. We got stuck in South Australia in the middle of summertime down there. So there's worse places to get stuck. And then we came up here and just kind of spun our wheels in Korea and played inter-squad games against ourselves for, another 6 or 7 weeks, which felt like an eternity. And then we started playing games in front of nobody, which was different, very different. Even in minor league spring training games, there's people around, even 6 or 7, it's not like there's a crowd, but there's at least somebody there. And now out here, we have a camera crew and some staff members, and it's been a challenge in its own way. But again, it'd be so hard to find a complaint about it just because I just feel so blessed to be playing baseball right now.
What's it like in the clubhouse? How good are you at communicating with your teammates?
People, I would say the majority of people, especially in the baseball world out here, have a pretty good understanding of English. The guys that have played in America have a much better understanding, even if they don't speak it. We have a couple guys that have played over in America, and but a lot even most of my teammates that never did go to America, they understand a lot of English. They're taught it in school coming up. Half the words over here are in English. We're the Lotte Giants. It's not it's not a Korean name for our team. It's Lotte Giants. A lot of places, the signs will be just in English. This just kind of part of the culture here. So that helps out a lot, I think, in my favor. But anytime we have anything more than just a surface level conversation, that's what my translator's here for. He's the longest tenured translator in the KBO. So I'm just lucky to have him. Not just for baseball conversations, but just for life conversations.
Do you all hang together? Being on different teams, but is there a camaraderie among the American pitchers over in the KBO?
Yeah, not just the American pitchers, but just the foreign players in general. Yeah, there's definitely a camaraderie to that aspect. When we played the KT Wiz, went and had dinner with Rojas Jr. and Despaigne. Rojas just picked us up and us 3 foreigners, one of our coaches, and those 2 guys went out to eat. And it's just kind of one of those things when, like anything else in life, when you're going through something similar as people around you, you find that to bond over.
Those 2 guys seem like characters. Just watching the games as an outsider, it seems like they'd be fun to have dinner with.
They are. I've played with Despaigne in Miami, and it's unfortunate that his pitching style is outlawed in many ways here in Korea. He gets to do his shimmy about one time a game, and the umpires freak out and tell him like, "Hey, knock it off." And so which kind of stinks because we see stuff all the time that looks kind of like a shimmy, but because they do it all the time, they get to continue doing it, I guess.
I was wondering that because I noticed he's got a lot of flair about him, and now he's being kind of forced into maybe a little bit less in games.
Yeah, he's definitely been tamed down a little bit, but we didn't know. In Miami, you figured you're going to get a quick pitch, or you're going to get a shimmy, you're going to get a long hold, you're going to get something funky. Maybe he didn't even know. I'd ask him too. I'd be like, dude, did you decide, at what point in your delivery do you decide which you're going to go with? And he's like, I don't. It just happens. I'm like, you're just like, he's like, yeah, sometimes I just lift my leg and it's like, oh, quick pitch. I'm like, see quick pitch yourself? He's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, okay, that works.
Yeah, it's tough at being a catcher, I'd imagine.
Probably. Just be ready at all times.
Yeah.
You're pretty well traveled. In the bigs, you played Oakland, Chicago, Houston, Cincy. I remember Miami, and then was it Baltimore? Baltimore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your favorite American city out of all those to play in, and why?
Man, that's tough. I really like Cincinnati.
I was gonna say I'm from Miami and actually right there by the stadium, so I know it was not Miami actually.
Well, I lived on Miami Beach my second year there, and that was like every off day I felt like we were on vacation, not like in season off day, which was really cool. But I just really I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Eastern Oregon, in a little rodeo town. So the Miami vibes are about as far away from that as possible. It really grew on me, but that was just I was much more of I felt much more at home, if you will, out and about in Kentucky, when I played for Cincinnati, I lived just across the river there. And that was a little more my pace, a little more my speed. But I definitely, the first time I was in Miami going to a grocery store and I was the only person in the building speaking English, was kind of the wake up call that, I need to brush up on some Spanish down there a little bit better. But it was, yeah, it's really tough because there's so much about each city that I played in. I didn't really play in Houston. I didn't really play in Chicago. I was just briefly those places, but I played in Miami, I played in Cincinnati, I played in Oakland, and I spent 2 months in Baltimore, which was more than Chicago and Houston. But each city that I was in, I truly found something that was I thought was really cool and unique about that city. When I wasn't playing.
How much does that? I always wonder when you hear about guys getting traded to different organizations and where they're going. And we deal a lot with guys going and playing in college, right? Going from high school to college level. And it's always about where are you going and how will you perform there? How much does the location affect your ability to do your job at a high level?
I mean, I'm in South Korea trying to do the same job at the same high level. It doesn't really matter. The mound is 60 feet, 6 inches away, no matter where you are. And when your goal is to get the hitter out to essentially every hitter you get out, your life advances a little further in the way you want it to be, basically. That should be all you need. It doesn't matter where it's at. I kind of got my first life lesson in that when I went to college. I was at D2 school. It wasn't for me. There were so many things about it that I was just this is not what I want to do. And so I actually crossed the country and walked on to Marshall University from Oregon to West Virginia, just walked on. And one of my buddies was just dude, you're not planning on playing baseball. You can't make money playing baseball in the state of Oregon. At some point you're going to have to finally leave. And I was oh, I never thought of it that way. And all of a sudden it was wow, okay, so let me go take this first chance on myself. Let me go roll the dice for myself this very first time. And little I know I've been doing that now for, what is that? I think that was 13 years ago. And I've been chasing this dream ever since, man. Just keep playing, keep getting jobs, just keep wherever it ends up, I'll give it the best wherever I find myself on a team. So really that's, the location is the mound. It doesn't matter what city it's in.
And I just build off that, and then Rob, you go from there. Does it, have you seen it affect people? Have you seen guys maybe get traded or come into a place and there's just something there mentally that stops them, or you don't see that at the pro level, at the highest level? I just think about like college kids who go off and then they go somewhere and it's too far from home or it's too cold and they don't know how to play in that weather or something like that, you know, where they don't have the vibes of, like you said, in Miami, it kind of wasn't your space. Like, do you see that happen to players, or just that's not what's going to happen if you make it to the bigs?
Well, I mean, like I said, like, yeah, I got to Miami, and at very first I was like, whoa, I'm like, no pun intended, I was a fish out of water. And like,
Yeah, nicely done.
yeah, nailed it. But it's also your job to adapt and get comfortable as fast as possible to get out to wherever you are. Like, and so it didn't matter that I was uncomfortable. Like, you hear about people, like the cliches, like, oh, you get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, that they're cliches for a reason. That's because they work. They mean something in this game. And this is one of them. Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like, yeah, that's completely acceptable, but like, get over it. Like, get yourself in a position to be competitive on the hill, because that's all that matters. No matter wherever the baseball field's located, like that, once the game starts, that part's irrelevant. Like, so get yourself comfortable no matter where you are. Like I said, I walked onto a college across the country that I had no clue anything about it before I got there. I knew I was taking a chance on myself, and like, I just knew I wanted to play baseball and at a higher level. And so D1 was the high level at that point. Like, I was in D2, so D1 was like, that was where I wanted to go. And I didn't care where that college was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that just didn't matter. Like, it was just all about trying to get outs and then trying to get drafted from there.
At what point did that drive happen? Because, you know, I see a lot of people when they get sidetracked or whatever, they're going to college, their door doesn't open for them, they just pack it in. You seem to have resilience and you want to get to a certain level. When did you feel that? And am I characterizing that correctly?
I would say you're characterizing it correctly. Yeah, I'm like, I love baseball. Like, it's not so much that like I've been a gifted baseball player my whole life. Like, that's not the case. I was not a highly touted anything until I was a high prospect in the A's organization. I was not ever. I was a 24th round draft pick. I was a college walk-on. I was a D2 out of high school. And then all of a sudden I get into pro ball and I was a 50th prospect. And then I was a #1 prospect. Like, that doesn't, like, I just kept working. I just never gave up. I always like, okay, what does this guy do really well? Okay, let me talk to him. Let me see what makes him really good. Yeah, I can't throw 98, but what makes his fastball do this? Or what makes his slider do that? And how can I never stop being a student of the game? How can I keep progressing, learning from people? And that's been the same since I was got into college. I first got into college and I was like, wow, that guy's 4 years older than me. He's a senior. Okay, what can he teach me that can help me skip some steps on this learning curve to make me a better pitcher right now? And I just started asking those questions. And my pitching coach in college played 13 years of professional baseball, and he would tell me to do something, and I would just be like, well, why? And he would get really mad, and I'd be like, dude, like I didn't say dude when I was in college to him, but I'd be like, dude, like I'm not asking you why, like questioning you. I'm asking you why, like, what's the process of it, so I can actually learn from it, not just so I'm not just doing what you're telling me to, but I can actually understand why I'm doing what you're telling me to do. And once he understood that, he had no problem with me asking why. But it was like, I needed that for myself on how I learn, is like, tell me to do something great, but like, why am I doing it? How is it going to make me better?
So literally, that is one of the big reasons I started doing what I do today, is to give players the ability to look what other players do and to understand when to ask questions and when to ask why, and to answer some stuff for themselves, but also if their coach tells them something, to say, well, that's not what I'm seeing Aroldis Chapman do, or that's not what I'm seeing Dan Straily do. So that it's good to hear that kind of feedback.
Well, yeah. I mean, we talk about it like my slider is unique. Like, there's no question about that. Like, the way I hold it, the way I throw it, it's unique. But the reason I do it is like because of the way I release a baseball. And if there's anybody out there that could, like, you know, try it and be like, this is so weird, then yeah, it is weird for you. Don't do it. Like, but for anyone that can't pronate like myself, like, that's how I found the ability to get a pitch to move the way that a slider would move, is by throwing it that way. And like, before we had high-speed cameras, I had no clue I threw it that way. I had no clue. I was like, oh, because my thumb starts on the side, right? And like, all of a sudden it's like on the top, and I'm like, wait, what? But I didn't even know that, and I had no clue about that until I was in 2013 pitching against the Mariners, and they showed a slow-mo of it, and I was like, that's what I do that? Like, I didn't know I did that on my slider. But like that was just, we didn't have Edgertronic. That wasn't a thing. So how could I know that before then?
But you didn't realize. All right, so let's go through some grips now. His slider grip is awesome. Let's. You have a baseball there, right? Awesome.
I have a Driveline 9-ounce ball. If
This
that
is a
works.
promo for Driveline. I love it.
Promo.
Let's check it out. So he has a very unique slider grip. Let's go through the grip and then how you release it and what your thought is.
So I really just my middle finger is in the top of the horseshoe. Like it's as basic as possible, right? Like that's this finger. This is always showing. Like so you can always see like this lace. So it's right here. Does that work? But the part that makes it weird for me, when I kept trying to throw it when I was like first learning it, like this thumb kept getting in the way, and I don't know what it was doing, but it was like it was keeping the ball from, like I don't know how I was letting go of it. I was catching onto it, so I moved it up, and then basically all it does is as my arm swings back, my thumb actually comes back like this, and I don't know if it's the torque. I don't know why it does it, but like when I release the baseball, it seems like my thumb's like up here, but in reality, it's kind of like behind the ball, like not really touching it. So it starts off like this, and then as soon as my hand comes back, like when I get back to, like my arm starts to swing, my thumb actually comes up. And so I'm really just throwing, in my head, I'm just throwing a fastball and just like, it almost just finishes like a football. But when I see it on high-speed camera, like that's when I notice that this comes up and it like moves. I don't know if it's my grip or what, like if I'm squeezing the ball or how that happens, but my thumb, I feel like it starts right here on the side, and it ends up like over here on release.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody throw a slider that way. I think it's awesome. And it's a beauty of pitching.
The only person I've seen do it with any sort of similarity was Luke Gregerson. Because we were talking about sliders, and he was a closer for the Astros at the time, and he was like, that's like all he did was throw sliders. It was like this slider sinker that was like identical pitches, different directions. And he was like, yeah, but I threw him with my thumb kind of on the side or almost on the top for my slider. And I was like, dude, me too. Like, they're the first person I've ever met that did that. Like, it was weird. I was like, I thought I was the only one in the world. Apparently I'm not. So, but when I learned this pitch from my college teammate, Shane Farrell, it was, I don't know if Shane had his thumb on the side or on the middle or where he had it, but it was like, for me, the adaptation was thumb moved up to this top seam and just tried to throw it like a fastball.
So let's go through, while we're talking about grips, curveball grip. I know your curveball has gotten pretty sick lately.
Yeah.
And I know you made some adjustments.
I talked about being a student of the game, right? Like never being done trying to learn from teammates. Come over here, watching my very first round of bullpens in South Australia with my new teammates. And this guy, Park Se-woong, has this curveball that I'm just like, dude, like, that's what I want.
It's a perfect curveball. I mean, I've tweeted it out before. It is a perfect 12-6.
It is. It is. And his spin rate on his fastball it's the numbers of it. It's like almost identically like opposite of his. It's like they're a perfect combo. And so I was like, okay, like we have similar spun fastballs, dude. How do you hold your curveball? He showed me, and I was like, I have tried this so many times. Like I have tried to throw this spike pitch so many times. And all of a sudden I found myself in Australia with like extra time to just work on stuff. And you talk about spring training games that don't matter. Like these games were that. Like it was literally like, go develop, go work on something. This is your time. Like there is no stat. There is no making a team. You're on the team. Just go get ready. So I started really trying this pitch and just really, I shelved my slider for a few weeks even, I think at one point in these games, and was just like, nope, I don't throw a slider. I'm going to throw this curveball. And just kept trying. And like, it's just like, I guess you could say it's just a basic like spike curveball grip. It really is. Like, but for me, it was the mentality of taking like this finger and really letting it just get over the baseball. Whereas like my old one, I was like trying to like kind of cast it out and like but instead I feel like I'm just throwing a fastball with a weird grip again. But it's just like it finishes here. And again, I thought it would like finish like facing like, oh, the ball's going to come out like this. And like when I see it on camera, like, no, it is coming off the side. Like in my mind, it looked like it was going to come off the side of my hand. And it kind of does. but I finally have a pitch that's not this like loopy curveball. Like I'm no longer bringing like a major league slider, a major league changeup, and a high A curveball to the mound with me. Like I feel like I'm bringing a major league quality curveball. I gave up my first hit of the season on a curveball the other day, and it was a curveball that I was proud of. Like it was like still a good curveball. I threw back-to-back curveballs and the guy hit up the middle for a single. So, but the fact that I'm 60 innings in and finally gave up a hit on it, like shows me I'm doing something right with that new pitch grip.
I was gonna say it's been really, really good. I mean, objectively, it's a top tier curveball, the ones that I've seen. So it's great work.
Well, the numbers of it mirrors exact opposite mirrors like my fastball, like rise and run is like the exact opposite for the curveball. So for me, that's what I was looking for, was a pitch that just mirrored it, like for tunnel purposes, and I found it.
What are some of those other some of those things that you've learned that just come from the different cultures, right? Whether it is grips, release points, pressure points, things like that. Because I mean, it seems like, it starts when we watch the Little League World Series and we start to see teams from all over the world. Like you could tell these kids are being trained or taught in a different way. Is there anything that you've come across, lessons on any of that you're like, I have never heard that in my life before?
The stuff like when it comes to the actual like pitching itself, like a lot of it is so much the same. It's like how they get there is the different points. Like there's like they're not. You see a lot of guys in the States really just move through their deliveries really, really quickly. Just rush right through the middle of their deliveries, rush through so many points of their delivery. And it's like over here, it's like these guys are just so trained in like being deliberate and like hitting certain spots in their delivery to get as much power as possible. I've seen like two guys this whole year like that I was like, wow, that guy's really rushing through his delivery. Everyone's almost like, hey dude, like try picking up the tempo a little bit. That's been like the biggest difference. The other thing I've noticed is that they don't throw changeups. They just don't. They all throw split fingers or fork balls. But like none of them really throw changeups. Like, so the guys that actually do have a changeup here, like really stand out. And
Why is that?
I have no clue. I've asked that question and nobody has an answer. I'm like, hey, all the starting pitchers, you all throw these fork balls or these splitters, but how come none of them throw changeups? And they're just like, we just don't. It's the same reason like not many guys really throw sliders. They all throw curveballs. Like I guess no one's willing to step out and like break the mold of like what is the current like KBO style. And then you see some of these guys that do have that changeup, that do have that quality slider, and they really stand out.
Yeah, I've seen a couple, and I could probably name them. The really ridiculous changeups, and some are really good. I mean, Marcus Stroman and I were just talking about, was it Jinho? I'm going to mess up his last name, but we were just going through his changeup, and there are some guys that throw really, really good changes, and then you don't see some. Also two seamers. I noticed that, I think I was talking to Daniel Kim, and he said that there's not a lot of great two-seamers in Korea either.
There's not. That's what like Drew Wachinski for the NC Dinos, that's like his game is like this cutter sinker combo, or cutter slider, or sinker slider, whatever. They're going like this, and whatever you want to call them. And his sinker though it's elite here because no one sees it. Like if it doesn't exist, and then all of a sudden you're throwing this unicorn pitch that they just hear of, and all of a sudden now they have to face it, like they're not going to be ready for it. And I think that is it's just part of the game for him, especially. It really helps him out a lot. But you don't see a lot of guys grabbing the ball in two seams, or even if they do, like they don't have, like they're like two on top of it, or like they don't get the right spin to get any sort of action.
So while we're going through pitch grips, we didn't touch on your changeup. So I'd be curious to see your changeup grip and what you're thinking when you release it.
So we talk about I can't pronate. At some point in my life, like my arm pronation like stopped. I don't know when it was. I feel like I used to when I was younger, but I don't have any proof of that. So as far as I know, I don't pronate. So like when I let go of the baseball, like every single time it's like baseball's out, then I pronate, right? I can't pronate on release. Like it's just not part of my game. So when I go to throw a two-seam fastball, like I don't ever actually like pronate. So like I can get it like one out of not enough. Like one out of like 20 times I can actually get it to like to do something like that you would consider a two-seam. So I say all that to bring you to like when I throw my changeup, I grab a two-seam with the wrong fingers basically. Like that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to throw the two-seam with the wrong fingers. And in the States, I let this finger, it starts off curled. And as, like again, Edutronic cameras have showed me this, but as I release, it actually would come off this middle finger, but this finger, this index finger would kind of extend, and then it would come off my middle finger almost sideways. But I don't know if it's like the little bit of tackiness on the balls that we have over here in Korea, or I really don't know what it is, but I was having a lot of trouble getting inconsistent movement with my changeup. So I've really changed it to this holding this two-seamer and keeping this index finger curled and not letting it straighten out. So I'm really just throwing a two-seamer with the wrong fingers and like trying to keep this almost like this okay sign, like keeping it curled the whole time. So I'm literally just throwing a two-seam with the wrong two fingers.
What's the culture like when it comes to how important velocity matters over there? Because we know the American game is all about throwing hard, taking steroids, hitting the ball out of Joe Robbie Stadium during batting practice. Like, what's the culture like over there?
They get really excited when they see velocity, but like it's not king, because not many guys over here, like I throw hard in Korea and like I'm sitting like 91 this year, and like that's pretty firm here. Like you can get that, like it's just different. It's just different. There's guys in this league that have thrown 100, like they've existed. There's guys in this league right now that can run it up in the upper 90s. They're here. But you see a lot of guys that are like mid 80s and they're dominating hitters, and you're just like watching it, but these guys just don't miss. Like they realize that command is what's gonna keep them in these leagues for a really long time. And we have guys on our team that are 20 to 41, and the guys that are in their late 30s and early 40s aren't doing it with velocity. They're doing it with command. They're doing it with stuff that is maybe diminished, but they still have command of it. You watch a guy like a young Dallas Keuchel who never had like this like crazy wipeout stuff when he like was first got to the big leagues, it seemed like, but he just didn't miss. And I watched him become a Cy Young on the same premise of like, he just didn't miss. Like it was never like, I mean, his stuff obviously got really, really good, but it was just like, he just never missed with it. And then his stuff got better and he continued not to miss with better stuff. But the idea of velocity trumps all is not really one that exists in this league. I feel like over here, it's a lot more of like putting it in the right spots. This league is by far, I feel like guys would rather ground out to second base than strike out trying to hit a homer here. And so the amount of contact is pretty ridiculous in this league. And so guys realize too, I think that, throwing hard down the middle might just, like guys are swinging at it. They're trying to hit homers off it. They're trying to hit it in place somewhere. Like you don't really know what they're doing at the plate. And so if you can just control putting it in, out, up, down, like you're gonna fare much better over the course of a long season.
I'm not sure if you can answer this, just because I know right now you haven't been over there terribly long, and with COVID, everybody's kind of been stuck inside. But maybe some of the guys on the team, and you have talked about it. I think about the development of the high school kid here in America, right? Get into the facility, pick up the weighted ball, start chucking it against the wall, right? Start doing pull downs and build that velocity. Do you know, or have you heard from any of the guys on the team, like what does the development of a teenage pitcher look like over there as opposed to America? Have you gotten any insight into that yet, or you kind of been too locked up to hear or see any of that?
I mean, we have a minor league team, right? There's each one of our teams does have, they call it the Futures League. And a lot of those guys are fresh out of high school. And our team they actually do driveline there. They have a program that they've worked with those guys. They're on that program, but I would be willing to bet that not many of them knew what that was until they got there. The overall sense I get from the culture is like rest trumps everything. So like they'd rather, if my pitching coach has told me many times, like, hey, if you want to skip a bullpen, just let me know. I don't care the reason. If you want to skip it, just let me know. I'm all for it. And like, it's if guys are pitching twice a week here, like if you pitch Tuesday, you pitch on Sunday, so you only get 4 days off, which is like very foreign to them. Then like you're only going to go 90 pitches because you got to make sure you're rested. Like it's like, so, but in terms of like, just, I say that because in terms of like growing up myself, like I never considered those things. Like I never considered like how much I was throwing, how often I was throwing. Was I throwing, what was I doing in between outings as a kid in Babe Ruth or a kid in Legion Ball or a kid in high school? Like I never considered those things, you know, and there's, obviously I followed a path well enough that I got to where I'm at right now, but I had no plan. There was no development plan for myself when I was coming up through high school. I remember going to my high school coach and being like, hey, how can I throw? I threw like 82. I was like, how can I try to get to 90 next year? And he's like, long toss. And I was like, okay. So I started long tossing, and like you would like, that was like what we did, is like with no plan, no structure, just like as often as the weather allowed us in Oregon, we long tossed. And it actually like didn't work, but we got closer than 82. So like, it was like we found some sort of structure to it. But so I would say it's somewhere between what I did, where I had no clue what's going on, and somewhere like now where it's like you'd almost see like certain like overtraining measures that we see sometimes in the States, where it's like, you know, too planned out for the age of kids. But at the same time, like, you know, I think we're all just trying to figure out what's the best for each individual.
So do they have Rapsodos and, I mean, obviously have weighted balls doing driveline, but are you getting Rapsodos, Edgertronic cameras, all that stuff? Is that coming there, or?
Oh no, it's here. It's here. Yeah, we have it all. Every day our hitters, when they hit BP, it's with Rapsodos, and bullpens for starting pitchers. If you want it, it's Rapsodo and Edgertronic, and all that's right there. And
do you think that the future of KBO is more along the velocity trends that we see in the US? I mean, I'm just curious if they've caught on that that's kind of the way to get people out, or is it going to stay the way it is now with low velocity, but a lot of different arm slots and stuff?
Oh no, they love it. Like we have all of our high leverage guys in our bullpen all throw 150. I mean, what is 150? What is that? With 93?
Yeah, I mean, constantly have to do the conversion.
Yeah, I always have to do it. But we have all of our leverage guys throw 150, and they can get up a couple ticks past that. You know, there's a guy in our minor leagues that went to driveline for a couple weeks, and he was touching 96, 97 when he was there. Like, there's guys here that throw hard. It's like just learning, okay, how can we get more and more guys to do that? And when I first got here, the first thing I noticed was all the guys in our bullpen that throw 150 look like they're trying to throw 150. And then a lot of guys that don't look like they're trying to throw 140, they throw 140. And so I think it's just a different, like, in style. Like, I got here and one of the guys was like, man, like, you really throw with a lot of effort. And I was like, really? That's kind of weird, because I've been told my whole life that I'm not a max effort thrower. But according to you see me, the American, throwing with more effort than you're used to, and you assume that I'm a max effort guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I want to correct the name that I threw out on the changeup. It was Jin-Ho Kim of the Dinos, who, if you ever watch him, he pronates incredibly well through the ball, and it's just the most ridiculous changeup that you'll see. It's a lot like Trevor Richards. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy.
How do you get by with I know when I was looking up your numbers, your fastball, I know you had said it's like 90, 92, 91, whatever. And then you throw a hard changeup, don't you? You throw pretty,
so 84, 85.
Right. So what is the key to having an effective changeup when you don't have that massive velocity change between the two pitches?
So the best advice I ever received on throwing my changeup, when I first started throwing it, I was throwing a touch harder. So I was like sitting 92, 93, could get up to 94 pretty much anytime I wanted. But my changeup was like 87, 89. And my pitching coordinator, I was like, man, I just feel like it's too hard. It's too hard. And he's like, the hitters will let you know. And I was like, what? And he's like, are the hitters hitting it? I was like, no, guys are hitting like 083 on it. And he's like, then it's fine. And so, like, to be quite honest, like, I've just never had to make that adjustment because my changeup's I've never had issues with it. So, like, I've never had to figure out how to slow it down. I've never had to figure out how to add more depth or how to add more anything because the pitch that I finally, and the reason I landed on the one that I landed on was because I could command this one. Like, I could throw it more often than not where I wanted to, which is a very important, when we just had that conversation about command, and especially with throwing off speed, you need to know where it's going. And obviously not every time, it's baseball, but more often than not, I feel like I know where my changeup's going. And so the hitters since 2012, when I learned that pitch, the hitters have never told me I needed to change it.
It's a lot. Zach Greinke has a changeup that's occasionally faster than his fastball, which is kind of a similar thing. Not ridiculous movement. Well, actually, he is more of a movement guy than a velo change guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that. I mean, there's been many times in my career where I've thrown like a first pitch fastball of an inning, like we just get me over. Like, here's an 86-mile-an-hour fastball. Like, just here it is, like first pitch of the inning, and then I followed up with like an 87-mile-an-hour slider, and I'm like, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just that's what came out. Like, it was just a get me over fastball, a BP fastball, a calculated, I know you're not swinging at this pitch fastball. And so why would I waste a good bullet? And then here's an A slider, like right behind it. So like, I totally see like where Zach would do that, because there's many times I've done that, like not like in the same regards, but like you every now and then I see up on the board, and it's like, I feel like it's part of our responsibility as pitchers is to check your velo each pitch. And so a lot of times I'll throw a slider and just really, how hard is that one? And just sometimes just see how fast you can get it going.
A quick quiz. Do you know what 69 miles an hour is in kilometers?
I don't.
Yeah,
I
do because I'm constantly looking for it. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 111, I believe.
111. So that's the magic. That's the magic curveball speed.
Yeah, I'm expecting one of those coming up.
I've been around 117 to 121, so that's a lot. That's asking a lot to slow it down.
Yeah, it's just one loopy one, just one. No.
Work on the ephus.
Yeah.
There you go. What's the goal? I mean, I know you said earlier that you just keep playing, doing the best you can, let the game take you where it can take you. But if it were up to you, where would it take you next?
Oh, I've not been shy about that one bit. My son turns 3 next week. I want him to watch me play in the major leagues, plain and simple. I want him to see me play in the major leagues. Let me rephrase that. He's seen me play in the major leagues. I want him to see me play in the major leagues when he remembers it. It's that simple. Like, I didn't start pitching until I was about 16, 17 years old. I have a very young arm in terms of like mileage. I would say I have under 2,500 innings on my arm in my whole life. So being 31 really doesn't mean much. Like, I've been the same caliber of pitches. I've actually gotten better over the last few years now that I have access to tools and technology to measure things and get better. And so, like, I don't really think time's really my enemy on that. I think it's just a matter of execution. And for me, I had to change some things, battled some injuries, got over those injuries, and got a job here. So it's just a matter of like proving that I wasn't broken. I just didn't have it for a month. And so when I came over here, I said my goal was to be the Cy Young of Korea and come back to the States. I didn't know if that meant next year, the year after that, the year after that. Like, there's no game plan. This is baseball. We can't game plan that kind of stuff. But my goal is to come back to the States where my son can watch me play at a time when he remembers.
So what else do you think you need to improve on? And has this been a blessing in disguise? I mean, for me, it looks like you've had time to tinker with some things. As we mentioned, your curveball has gone from, I mean, it's a plus pitch right now, the way I'm looking at it, to go along with your changeup and fastball and slider. I mean, it's what else are people telling you that you need to do to reach your goal?
Well, part of my struggle in Baltimore last year was my slider. Like over the course of like my career, my slider in the big leagues was like guys hit like 180 off it, and all of a sudden guys were hitting 4 something. So I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't figure out what the change was. I couldn't figure out the adjustment. I lost so many hours of sleep trying to figure out. I mean, that was my pitch. That's what I relied on for a decade, and all of a sudden like it wasn't working. And it took me getting DFA'd, me getting sent down, and then that's when I was able to finally make the adjustment, finally able to figure it out. And so I finished really strong when I got sent down last year. I had a really good season in the minor leagues, and that's what got me a job over here. So really it's just, I see it as a ball player as your job interview never stops. I've been doing this professionally now. It's my 11th year professionally, and I'm still on the same job interview as I was when I was in low A. As when, you know, I've pitched at many different levels, many different places, but like you're only like, what have you done for me lately? Is the game we play. Like what are you capable of now? And so just really trying to show that I have the dominant stuff that I've always had for a long period of time, because I've been a starting pitcher for a decade. I don't see that changing. It's just a matter of showing that I can do this at age 31, the same that I could do it at age 21.
So how much of this game, and you'd mentioned the struggles last year, how much of it in your mind is mental? A lot of it, even what we don't call mental, is mental. I think your drive to consistently improve is a mental skill that I don't think a lot of people have. But go through, like in a game situation, how much of it is mental? What are your resets? Just your thoughts on the importance of the mental game.
I feel like all this, I've said so many times in my life, I have no clue how many career starts I've made over the last decade, but so many times that I've left a game, and let's not talk about the games that I've done really well. Let's talk about some of the games where I haven't done well. And I've walked off the mound and I'm like, you know what? Like I didn't get beat today. Like I beat myself. And like, what I'm saying is like, I got in my own way. I created a mental hurdle. I put like false pressure on myself that didn't really exist. I did this in my own head, like that stopped me from performing. I've had this same conversation with so many guys. Like I was like, you know, I had like maybe 4 years of service time in the big leagues at this point in Miami, when Trevor Richards and Caleb Smith and Pablo Lopez and all these guys started showing up that were like all these actual like just rookies in the big leagues trying to like, and they had a lot of questions, and I was the oldest guy. So like they came to me, and I remember sitting there talking to them so much about that exact thing, about this like idea of fake pressure that we put on ourselves as pitchers, when really the pressure's on the guy in the box. Like going to the National League showed me how hard it was to hit, and getting in the box and seeing how fast things happen, like really helped me become a better pitcher, and made me realize that the pressure's on the guy in the box. And like, you have all these defenders, you have these certain angles that they have to hit it in. Like, it's just, there's a lot more that they have to do, and it allowed me just to relax and become a better pitcher. And so I realized that like a lot of times we create these hurdles in our own head, and if we can just get those out of the way, like we're just running the straight line down the track instead of taking a couple steps and trying to jump a hurdle, a couple steps trying to jump a hurdle. It's just, we get out of our own way and we become better pitchers.
Do you have any specific thoughts that you go through on the mound? Like you give up a dinger, is there any like reset? Is there anything that you catch yourself spiraling out of control, or do you have that under command right now because of all the years of pitching?
When I first got drafted, day one, I was handed a piece of paper in the Oakland A's minor league system, and it was a pyramid, and it had all this stuff written down. And at the very top, they said 1 pitch at a time. And all this stuff leading up to it, I didn't know what it meant. I read it all. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is cool philosophy. And years later, I finally realized like all this stuff at the bottom was like, no matter what happens, like 1 pitch at a time. So like, no matter what situation you are, next pitch, 1 pitch at a time. Like that's all you have to focus for. You have to focus on 1 pitch at a time, 100 times a game as a starting pitcher. That's it. And so what Gil Patterson was really trying to hammer into us was that like, You're never out of it. You're always one pitch away. Just make the next pitch. Like, no matter the situation, just make the next pitch. And once you can like finally like grasp that as a pitcher, like the only thing that really matters is what I do with the ball now. And then you execute that pitch, or you don't execute it. Okay, what do I do now? And it's like each time you do that enough, like over the course of a game, over the course of a season, that's when we start seeing success. That's when we start seeing careers built, or draft stock rising, or college scholarships showing up, because anybody can have a good day, but what happens when you start putting good days together over and over and over and over and over again? And so all that stuff boils back down to the exact same thing every single time, and that's one pitch at a time.
I find that so hard for some pitchers too, and some it comes easily. I know DeGrom talks about that. Kyle Hendricks talks about that. Greg Maddux talks about that. But you see youth players, you know, they all of a sudden, bases loaded, 3-2 count, and they just can't deal with that pressure. So it sounds like some of it is just going through it and realizing it, and then with experience it comes. Are there any practice things you do, like say you're home in your apartment? Do you go through a game? Do you think about that stuff, or is it just natural for you?
I think it comes with experience. You know, you mentioned bases loaded, 3-2 counts. Like, I've been there. I don't know how many times, but I've been there enough to know that I've probably struck the guy out. I've probably gotten the guy to pop out. I've probably given up a double. I've probably given up, you know, just like any, you name the situation, I feel like I've been there. At some point in my career, like there's not a situation like I haven't been in, and there's not a situation I haven't gotten out of. Like I've been in bases loaded, nobody out, and struck out the side. I've been in bases loaded, nobody out, and given up a grand slam. I've been in all these situations, so it's like there's nothing new that you can throw at me. And if you look back at each time, like there was success or failure, it was, did I execute the pitch or not? It's just that simple. And you can go back and look at it, and if you executed the pitch and you gave up a hit, that's bad game planning. That's the way I always look at it. If I didn't execute the pitch, then it's that simple. You didn't execute, kid. Like, get the next one. Like, keep going. Just keep fighting. But I think it's just that been there, done that, done it so many times that it's just ingrained in me as a pitcher. And the list of guys that you named, that's an elite group of guys you just named off there that have said the same thing. There's a reason that they all say the same thing, is because that's what works.
So what other mental cues do you have for pitchers?
I think that one thing that I go to myself is, like, I don't throw like incredibly high. Like, I throw below like major league average speed, but when I'm on the mound, like I try to like hold myself to like the presence of like I throw 100 miles an hour. Like I walk around like I throw hard. I walk around like I'm just better than you in the box. Like I'm it on the mound. Like I feel like you have to have that mentality. Because it's just really, it's a belief in myself more than anything else, because I genuinely believe that like every pitch I have has what it takes to get anybody out that ever stands in that box 60 feet away. And so even though I don't throw 100, like I walk around with the mentality of like I can throw 100.
Out of all the uniforms that you have worn, whether it was your away jersey or your home jersey, your alternate jersey, for all the teams, which is the most badass jersey? What was your favorite one?
That's a good one.
See, Rob, I got good questions in here. He said that.
Yeah, I really liked the black Miami jerseys. It's like when I first was coming up through the A system, I wanted so bad to wear the black A's jersey, and just like the dark green with the black letter. It's just like it looked so clean. And then they got rid of it, and we had yellow, and it was like the opposite. Like no one looks good in yellow, and it was like, okay, so I keep playing. But when I got to the Reds, I didn't know this was a thing, that the Reds only wore red tops, like the red jersey is at home during day games. And I came in one day, and like they just always are hanging up in your locker. Well, I acquired the name Day Game Dan because I pitched so many day games that's what the clubhouse manager started calling me. And I come in one night, and I'm like, hey, Rick, can I wear the red jersey tonight? And he's like, we've never done that. And I was like, oh, he's like, but if you want to wear red, we can wear red. And I was like, okay, like, that'd be great. Like, I'll wear the red jerseys. And it coincided with the same day that Chris Sale cut up the jerseys in Chicago. And so I was like, everyone was wearing me out because I got to wear the red jerseys, but Chris Sale wasn't allowed to wear the home jerseys. He was supposed to wear these just like alternate jerseys and all this kind of stuff. But I really, really liked the red jerseys in red. Like that was my favorite jersey I ever had. I had a lot of success in that jersey. It's probably why I loved it so much. But so I'd say it's between the Reds uniform or the black Marlins uniform is my two favorites.
Do you want to tell us the ugliest one, or you want to skip that question?
Oh, I already mentioned that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I
didn't know if that was officially the ugliest or
well,
not.
it's definitely not officially the ugliest jersey I've ever worn in my life. Some of the minor league jerseys, and you wear some very interesting stuff coming up through the systems, but the yellow jersey and the A's of the A's jerseys, like that was my least favorite. I don't think it was necessarily the yellow jersey itself. I think it was the fact that I wanted to wear the black one so bad that no longer existed, that I was like, in spite of that, I was like, I'm not going to wear the yellow one.
So what pitchers have you been influenced by in your career, like growing up or either early in your career, and what pitchers do you like watching today?
Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, it was all about just like Randy Johnson and like all like that type of era. But then it's weird to say because we're almost like the same age, but I feel like I was watching him pitch when I was still like growing up, which was like learning who I was as a pitcher was Felix Hernandez. And so like watching the stuff he did in the big leagues, I was like, dang, like he's like, I think he's like a year or two older than me. And it was like, he's doing that in the major leagues. Like I'm in college. Like what's going on here? Like this, like I didn't understand anything about how like baseball worked at this point in my life. And I was just like trying to like, people were trying to emulate him and like all this kind of stuff. And so at one point I actually had like a little like Felix Hernandez, like leg lift in my delivery. I'm sure like half my college team did up there, but it was really liked watching we had the Yes Network at our house growing up during the summertime, so I watched a lot of Andy Pettitte as well. But it was really just I couldn't get enough baseball. Like it wasn't necessarily like one pitcher I had to watch all the time. It was like we had TBS, WGN, the Yes Network, KTLA, and then the Mariners were on every night. So like I would just start watching baseball like as soon as possible and watch it all day as a kid. And I guess it's because it was like 100 degrees outside, and it was like I lived in the middle of a wheat field, so like you get your work done, and it was just hot, and you don't want to be out there, so you just go on outside and watch baseball. But I think that a lot of Andy Pettitte was one of my favorite, and so and Felix when I was a little older. Now, trying to think of like when I'd be in the dugout and like
is there a guy that you're just in awe of, or you just sit there and go, a teammate or an opponent that you just sat there and said, oh my God, this guy's ridiculous?
Well, I mean, it's being in the NL East for a couple of years, really having faced Scherzer in the box and having faced DeGrom, having faced these guys, like you just get an appreciation for like their ability to repeat that day after day after day, or start after start after start. And then like even the days when they don't have it, like I've seen a few of those, and you're just like it's still pretty like ridiculous what they're able to get through when they don't have their best stuff. But between Scherzer and DeGrom, I felt pretty spoiled being able to watch those guys a lot from the other dugout, and even in the batter's box a few times, unfortunately.
So that's a great point, and you brought up being in the batter's box a few times. Do you feel like doing away with the DH is taking away some of this experience where you get to see what the opposing pitcher's like and get to see how hard it is hitting, or do you care?
I loved hitting. I obviously if it's going away in baseball, it's going away in baseball, but I loved hitting. But you're also talking to the guy that was almost the major league record for the biggest over to start a career. Like I was 0 for 50 before I got my first hit. And then I finished like right now, like the next 100 at bats, I got 10 hits after that. So like it gave me an appreciation for like being a better pitcher, like how hard it is to hit. But like you could easily look at that too and just be like, this Dan Straily had no business hitting in the big leagues. Like I hadn't picked up a bat like with intent in like a decade when I got in the big league box for the first time against Garrett Cole in 2013. And I was like, I literally got in the batter's box and Russell Martin was catching and I was like, hey, where do I stand? And he was like, when was the last time you hit? And I was like, 2006. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Just stand anywhere. And he was right. 3 pitches later, I walked back to the dugout. And then a couple weeks later, we're go to play the Reds, and Matt Latos throws this cutter that like starts behind me, and I like wanted to like run home like out of fear, and it was like down the middle strike, and I was just like I have no business being in the batter's box right now. So there's a lot of reasons, like, but then once I was in the National League and like I was comfortable being in the batter's box, you know, I had a ton of sack bunts. And even my last year, like I got walked 9 times. I had like a 350 on base percentage. Like, so like I got much better in the box, but like I think the game will see more offense with obviously with a DH, but I think it takes away having special players like Bumgarner or even like Kershaw or Greinke, some of these guys, Arrieta, that can handle the bat as pitchers, Corbin. I'm just like, I could probably keep going, but like some of these guys like that can actually, it makes what they do that much more special, because it is like facing 9 hitters as opposed to when you faced the 2016 version of myself, which was an automatic out. So I think it's good in a lot of ways, but I think it's just change, and change is hard, like for anybody.
I read this on Wikipedia, I think it was, or something. It said something about like that year in the major leagues, you had the lowest batting average against when facing a team for like the 3rd time. Does that sound familiar? Okay.
Yeah.
Normally it's the other way around, right? Like you face a team for 2-3 times and they get better against you. Why did you get better against teams the more you faced them?
I think there's 2 reasons. I use a system called Codify, which is a service that helps me pregame plan the games before I go out there. So like, I really just have these heat maps that I know right where I need to throw the pitch, and I just have to execute. If I've never faced the team, like I still have data for them, but it's just pitches like mine. And it's good, but it's not me pitching. So the more I face guys, the better data I have against them. But I think too, just being in the moment, in the game, you have a chance to get a feel for what a hitter's trying to do against you. And then you get a feel for like how you're going to try to get them out. Like there's like the more at bats I feel like I have against a hitter, the better chance I have at getting them out, because I know what they're about. I know what they're trying to do. And then I'm able to just like know what I've done in the past against them and mix off of that. Not necessarily like try to beat them the same way over and over and over and over again, but it's like beat them different ways and show them like different ways that I can get them out. There was a day where I was facing Jose Bautista for the whatever time, and Real Muto was just like, hey, let's have some fun. Let's just only throw him sliders today. And so we threw him like I think it was like 11 straight sliders in his first like 2 at bats, and he was 0 for 2. And then he's like, hey, just don't reach back on this first pitch. And like he calls the first pitch fastball, and it's like a 86 mile an hour fastball down the middle, and Bautista takes it. And then JT calls 3 more sliders, and he strikes out. And he's just like up in arms. He's like, what are we doing? Like just so frustrated. It's like, but I faced him so many times. Like I'd never done that. Like I'd never only thrown him sliders. There's always a mix. And you just like the longer you have, like the more bats you have against guys, like you have the ability to like mix off of what you've done in the past instead of just like blindly guessing what pitches might work for you.
That seems like a really simple idea. Why is that not the case, do you think? Like why the longer guys face pitchers? I mean, you think about get them out of there after seeing them 2 times through or something, just on a real basic level. But again, like why are more pitchers not thinking like that? Maybe is that something different to you?
I don't know. I don't really care like what like when a guy comes up to the plate, like I see them for like what they are as like, are they a power hitter? Are they a slap hitter? I see them for what they are against me. So like, let's say a guy is not really a power hitter, but for me, he tries to just hit the ball deep. Like I would recognize that and okay, or pitch to the ballpark. Like when I played in Cincinnati, like you don't really have to be on the plate because people leave the zone because they just get excited to be there. They think they can hit 5 home runs this weekend, this series, whatever it is. And they get themselves out a lot just by being excited to be in that ballpark and hitting. They think this is where I'm going to get my numbers. And so you get guys out quickly. They're chasing a lot, kind of like that kind of stuff. Or, maybe I got a guy out on a changeup the first at bat, and then I get him out on a slider the second bat. And it's like, now we're coming into the third at bat. Like, what am I going to throw you now? Now you don't know. Like I get you like the kind of the put away stuff. And if I can get a called strike and I can get you to foul pitch off, like now I got a lot of options. I can do anything I want. So I think it like, I know what you were talking about, like where like it was like 220, 215, and then like 180. Like it dropped significantly that third time through. And I don't know what the answer to that is specifically, other than like I had a lot of success the third time through the order.
I mean, to me, it sounds like it was pretty well thought out, though. Actually, too. I mean, it's. I don't think a lot of pitchers think that way. It's kind of out of the box thinking.
I keep a binder with me when I pitch, and I have my heat maps in there, and I take notes throughout the game. So like, and I just check the next 3 hitters or 4 hitters each inning before I go out there, just to make sure that like I'm locked into what I'm trying to do and what I need to do here. And I'm to the point when I look at my heat maps, I know like 99% of hitters, I can throw this pitch anytime to anybody. But it's like that one hitter that I can't throw that pitch to, that's the guy I need to know. Like I could pretty much throw a right-hander, a slider to my glove side to anybody in Korea, anybody in America that was pretty much the same blue. But it's the one guy that I can't throw that pitch to. I need to know that person. And so it's like, it's not necessarily like I have the freedom to throw all my pitches to all my strengths to everybody except this guy or this guy. And that, I think that's more important to know almost than like what they're bad at. It's like, where do my strengths play within their game? Because I'm going to throw my strength only if it's also like their weakness. And if my strengths are also their strengths at every single level, then it's just who's going to win that day. But more often than not, like one of my strengths is going to match up with the weakness of the hitter. It's just making sure you do your homework to go out there. AJ Ellis one time told me that game preparation is exactly that. Like you're studying for a test. Every start is a test. If you were going to go take a math test in high school or college, like would you study for it or would you just show up? And I was like, well, high school Dan probably just showed up. And he's like, well, what was high school Dan's math grade? And I was like, not very good. And he's like, so if you showed up and you studied, like you'd get better grades. And I was like, yeah, when I was in college, like I had to, so I got an A in math. And he's like, what'd you do different? I was like, I studied. He's like, so think about the starts where you've actually studied before the test. Like you're not going to just show up to the test and just guess the answers. You're going to study. So every major league start is a study or is a test. And if you study and do the preparation, then all you have to do is just execute. If not, then you are guessing. And it's like finding out like, and that's not the place to get guessed. Like, oh, this guy hit a homer. I can't throw that pitch again. Well, yeah, correct. But you've also now given up earned runs. Like, so it's just kind of like some of the obvious things that maybe get overlooked or just passed up every now and then at certain times in careers that you're just like, it seems simple, but it's just a matter of just doing it.
Do you feel like most pitchers get that? I mean, that sounds like next level thinking to me, the in-game stuff. And do you feel a lot of guys are just going through it with their natural stuff and just either overpowering folks or are most people thinking that way?
I feel like a lot of teams just hand you like the pregame plan. Like, here's what you're going to do today. The catchers, I mean, I've been blessed with some very, very good catchers. Tucker Barnhart, JT Realmuto, Brian Holiday, like AJ Ellis, just some guys that are just amazing game prep guys that I've been around, that it's almost like you're better off with some people being like, hey, don't look up a thing. Like, just follow the catcher because he did all his homework. But when you both do your homework and you both have an idea, then you can like hold each other accountable on certain things. Like there'd be many times like I'd be in Cincinnati and like I'd be like, I'm gonna throw a slider away to this guy. Tucker would call fastball in, and I'd be like shake, and he'd call fastball in. I'd shake. I'd be like, dude, I want fastball away. I want slider away, and he'd call fastball in and just set up. And I'd throw the pitch, get the guy out, and look back at home plate. And he's just standing there staring at me like, come on, idiot. Why'd you make me shake? Like, why'd you shake me 3 times? Like, I know what I'm doing. And like, but like because he did his homework, like he instilled that confidence in the pitchers. And I'm not saying I didn't do my homework and that's why I was questioning it, but it gives that confidence both ways. So like when he would shake me, essentially, I trusted him. And then when I would shake him, he knows I'm doing my homework. He would trust me. And I think that that's all. You're not going to make every decision correctly. Like every start is essentially 100 decisions, give or take. Every start, you're making 100 decisions, and then you're executing that decision. And so if you can make 90 highly educated guesses on those decisions, you're gonna be a lot better off than if you're making 50. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many obvious answers to these questions. They don't even really need to be like, they're not even second thoughts. Because like we talked about earlier, velocity and all that kind of stuff, I don't throw 100. So like I need to know, okay, where can I put my fastball against this guy? Is it a fastball down and in? Is it a fastball up and in? Is it up and away? Is it down and away? Where's my fastball go to this guy? And so I feel like just going up there and just blindly guessing is really doing a disservice to my team and to myself.
Rob, what else you got?
I was going to ask quickly, how big of a impact did Driveline have on your career?
I'd be willing to say that I would not be sitting here talking to you guys if I did not go to Driveline in 2015. My shoulder was just weak, and I didn't know why. I didn't understand why I would throw, and it just wasn't coming out the same. And then I felt like I wanted to chop my arm off every day until it was my turn to start again. And doing all the cuff work, doing everything, I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, what I wasn't doing enough of, what I was doing too much of. And I go to Driveline, we do a biomechanical analysis, we get on a strength program. I told Kyle, like, I don't care about raising my roof. Like, I'm not worried about that. I just need to bring my floor back up to where it used to be. Like, I've never expected myself to be a guy that sits 95, but I need to be able to sit 91. And when I need a 93, a 94, I need to be able to grab it. But I don't expect you to like make me be a 96, 97. I was like, that's not in the cards. Like, I'm 25 years old at this point, and it's like, let's just be realistic here. And so we got to work and did that kind of stuff. But I don't think that I really believe that if I did not go up there and buy in to what they're doing, that I would have ever gained back that velocity. Like you don't just lose it for whatever reason I lost. You don't just lose it. It doesn't just magically appear. Like, you have to like actively work every day to get that back.
I got one more question. Pitching Ninja's becoming a big deal over there in the KBO, huh? Like, what's going on? He's infiltrated the clubhouses there, it seems like. I mean, everybody's trying to get on Pitching Ninja with pitching grips and all this. Is he really a celebrity in the KBO now or no?
We've definitely pumped it up a little bit. Every time any one of my teammates would get on it, we'd show it to them. And at first they were like, what's this? And so we would like grab our translators, like explain it. And then like it got to the point where like Park Sae-woon came up to me after a start and was like, hey, did the Ninja post any of my pitches from last night? Like, just because it's like it's a rite of passage. It's an honor, if you will, when your name is not Scherzer or DeGrom or like Kyle Hendricks, to get on Pitching Ninja's Twitter feed, I guess. And so, but these guys, they really, a lot of the KBOers, they really, like, they follow Major League Baseball. They know who so many guys are. They watch highlights. They watch old videos. They consume so much baseball media. And so like them knowing that America is watching them is like inspiring. Like it's really cool to see how excited they get when they are on the ESPN games, or when they're on the Pitching Ninja, or when anything they do makes it on ESPN. Like just because they know that like how much I've seen it, but they know how much like they love MLB, and the fact that America is a captive audience to them in a way right now, I think has been nice for them.
That's super cool.
We got to show off our sword shirts. I mean, we planned this today. It was the there we go. There we go.
I ordered these a couple, like, I don't know, it was like a month or two ago. I don't really know exactly when. And this was actually the first time I wore it. I've been wearing the red. I bought the red pitching ninja, the blue pitching ninja, and this shirt. And then I gave a couple of the ones to the guys in the clubhouse. And but like this has been in my closet, and like I was just going through my stuff today, and I was like, oh, like I forgot I ordered that. So like I was like, oh, I gotta wear it tonight for the interview.
Well, tell the guys.
What are you wearing tomorrow?
That Rob has agreed to send everybody
Yeah.
a Pitching Ninja shirt in the Lotte Giants clubhouse. So congratulations to everybody on the team.
My Oprah Winfrey?
Yes.
You get a car.
Giveaway. They will all be getting the death stabbing umpire shirt.
Oh,
no, like he's obviously like, we have Tom Hallion, like that's like our most entertaining umpire in the States, it seems like. There's a bunch over here, but like when I had like the chainsaw, the lawnmower, whatever you're gonna call them, I've had a couple so far, and I saw one of our guys get struck out looking in the first, and I was like so motivated to just get strikeout looking, just like the whole day. I was like, I just want to watch this guy just light up hitters. Like, it's funny.
They're awesome, dude. They're like fantastic.
One thing we talk about differences between MLB and KBO. We had umpires at spring training, bullpens, like legit. Like in Australia, we had 4 umpires with us like the whole time, the same 4 with us like the whole time. And like they were standing in our bullpens, calling balls and strikes every single day. Like we'd be doing PFPs, and like they're at first base, out, safe, out, safe. Like they're punching people out, and they're doing. It's just like But they started seeing pitches like early on in the year. They didn't wait for games to start. Like they were watching bullpens, and I was like, huh. Like we call it the Korean wow. So there's so many things that's like, wow, like that's amazing. And then there's other things you're like, wow, why do you do that? Like, but this one, so like everything's just wow. But like that one was like, wow, like why don't we do that in America? Like, why don't these guys come stand in on some bullpens?
That it's interesting because you get demoted if you make bad calls. There's some personality among umpires. It seems like they take more crap from players too. Like I've seen some stare downs from hitters and from pitchers. Is there something to be said that maybe that should be the way that U.S. umpires handle some things instead of always having a chip on your shoulder?
Well, they don't take crap from anybody. That's a misconception right there. Nobody challenges what they say. Like nobody disrespects the umpires here. Like if you disagree, like you just better wear it, because if you say something, like you're leaving the game. In America, like every pitch, one of the dugouts is yelling at the umpire. So like that's just how it goes. Any borderline call, like someone's unhappy, and over here, like no one says anything. Like there's many times where I feel like I've struck guys out and I've not gotten the call, and I'm like, next pitch, thank you. Like
I've seen,
but that's
maybe it's eye rolls that are more accepted, because I've seen some eye rolls, not chirping.
Yeah, one of my old teammates, Tim Adelman, he actually played over here in the KBO as well, but we'd be in the dugout, and like an umpire would say, like, make a bad call that we thought, and he'd just be like, gee, are you sure, sir? And you're like, that's like the dumbest thing to say. But like, it's like this like joke I've had in my head with him for years. And so like, I swear at some point this year, I'm just going to be like, say that to an umpire here. Just be like, gee, are you sure, sir? Like, and they're not going to know what I'm saying, but it's just like you can't be disrespectful, but like, at some point you're just like, come on, man, like that's enough bad calls for the day. But I feel like, they have been very consistent. I have to give them that. Like I've yet to see an umpire, like if he's a big zone, it's a big zone. If it's a small zone, it's a small zone. Like I have to say, like I've seen a lot of consistency in the starts that I've made. And the rest of them, I'm sitting on the side, and you can't, everything's a strike when you're in the dugout.
So I'm going to get you ejected now, like we were trying to do the rosin blow. Now that your job is to get ejected from a game by saying something back to an umpire.
Last year, one of the guys asked the umpire, like obviously he said it like aggressively or whatever, but he said like, where is that? And the umpire threw him out. And like translator comes out on the field and like trying to get him off and they found out the umpire was like, I thought he told me to F off, and he was like, he asked you where it was, and he was like, oh, I don't speak English, so I thought he told me to F off, so I threw him out of the game. You're like, well, he did. But what are you gonna do?
Rob, what do you got left, man?
Oh, I think I don't want to keep it. We can talk baseball all night. I love
Well,
this.
he
Maybe
is
we'll do it
talking
again.
all night.
I know. I guess so. We should do this again.
I'm usually up until 2, so we're still within the time frame. I just got to FaceTime Jackson after this, so we're good to go.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. It's so interesting to just learn.
How do you like the food so far?
Oh, geez. Just let him jump in.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask you a simple.
Don't mind me.
Yeah. It's been different. Like, I've been ordering, like today I just got in Kodiak cakes and overnight oats to make those myself because I can't take some of the stuff they make. It's good, but it's such a different palate than I'm used to. And especially when I'm trying to perform over a long season, you can't live on fried chicken all year if you want to have success. And, there's a lot of the same salty foods that are just consumed constantly. And, I'm just a guy that's always had to pay attention to what I eat and have battled weight different times in my life. So I really have to focus on those things. And so, the food's good, really good, but at that same breath, I have to say that I really have to kind of be careful with what I'm choosing and when I'm choosing to eat it.
Well, we're looking forward to having you back in the States soon too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Just keep working hard and come back someday. And if I'm over here for multiple years, then I'm over here for multiple years. If not, then, just keep working.
I'll tell you, it's been fun though. I mean, all eyes are on y'all. We all watch every one of your starts, so
Appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Good luck, Dan Straily, Lotte Giants, and the KBO, and we hope to have you back here in the MLB whenever we start playing MLB seasons again. So lucky for you, right now you're in the KBO because that's where it's at. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Dan.